I'm Megan Lavilla in the studios here at Cincinnati Public Radio with Mezzo soprano Sasha Cooke. Thank you so much for joining us here to talk about Handel's Messiah.
Nice to be here.
Have you performed the piece before?
Yeah, I have. I just did the count because I was curious. I think this is my 21st gig doing Messiah. Probably, I don't know, performance-wise, I'd have to figure it out. But it was one of my first jobs, and I'm grateful it's still recurring in my life.
Yeah, it's kind of like a come full circle moment,
Yeah,
it seems like.
yeah.
Do you have like a connection to like one of your previous performances or something, just the connection to the piece or a specific experience you've had with it?
I've had lots of experiences with it. I mean, good and bad. Most recently, I did it in Italy, and there was a protest. So that was strange. And I think the reason they used the Messiah was because we were being televised. And it was an environmental protest where they sort of tied themselves to the conductor's stand, and I was nervous for him, but they were sort of sitting on the floor as we were singing, so that was crazy. But mostly what I love about the Messiah is that it just really brings people in. I think it is sort of like the Nutcracker. It just feels like everybody's music. I wish more music felt that way, but for one reason or another, and I have lots of thoughts about it, the Messiah just brings people into the auditorium and brings them into our space. And the fact that it's in English and, of course, the story of the Messiah. And I think it has a sort of cleansing power, you know. The text, which is hundreds and hundreds of years old, is really profound. It's simple yet profound, you know. The idea of, you know, the being led from darkness into light, you know, just that alone is very cathartic. And going through the resurrection with everyone feels like the kind of emotional journey. The like what we love in music is that it is a human journey together, and the Messiah embodies that.
Your part in the piece, specifically, can you talk a little bit more about, you know, just your experience performing?
Well, what people don't know is that the soloist, actually, it's pretty hard. It's kind of scary because you have coloratura, it's high and low, it's very soloistic, so it's like very typical Handel, which, you know, he wanted to sort of showcase the artists he was featuring. It is a, you know, powerful moment for each of us. I know there are different challenges for each of the voice types. For my particular voice type, it's on the lower side for most mezzos. So a lot of mezzo sopranos don't love singing the Messiah because it's lower. And you have to have coloratura. So once I get through that first piece, I'm very happy because that's the hardest of all of them. And it varies from place to place because a lot of people do the full version and others do a shorter. Of course, everyone's always looking forward to the Hallelujah chorus. Everyone has different favorites, I think, you know. So a lot of my favorite movements in the work are not my pieces. They're other, you know, whether it's choral or other soloists, but another challenge is the length of the work. So usually in my kind of work, you know, you have a 20-minute piece, you come out, you do your thing, you go back. In the Messiah, it can be up to 3 hours sitting, waiting for that soloistic moment that is hard and difficult. So that's a challenge.
You had mentioned that some of the parts that really stand out to you that you like aren't actually your parts. And I kind of wanted to ask what pieces those were.
You know what I love? Because while I'm sitting there, you know, this is the wonderful thing about being an instrument is that, yes, of course you have the times you're sharing, but then a lot of the time you're just absorbing the beauty, right? And Messiah especially, I'm sitting there for a long time like an audience member, living the experience, and my favorites change all the time. And it probably depends on where I am in life and the performers I'm with and the conductor I'm with. Like the line, you know, all we like sheep are led astray, you know, and I thought, gosh, that feels very relevant right now, that we like sheep are led astray, you know, and hopefully we'll find our way back. And, you know, the soprano has this beautiful solo, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace. Just, it really kind of focuses in on the simple truths of life. Brotherly love, peace, you know, kindness, forgiveness, transcendence. So I'll be sitting there, and probably something that just happened in my life it'll be, you know, a chord will be struck, pun intended, by something someone says in the room, you know, and that's what you hope for, you know, in a musical or artistic space.
Has there been a specific piece that just in rehearsal that has stood out to you for this, with the CSO and with the chorus?
Well, the CSO is really extraordinary, and this conductor is extraordinary in many ways, and he happens to love the Messiah. Not that anyone should conduct something they don't love, but it's extra when that happens.
Yeah, you can feel it.
You can feel it. And we're using his parts. So he's put in all kinds of notations, all kinds of extra nuances, extra, ideas. And so it's very alive. So I would say probably a lot of my favorite moments now are orchestral. Like when you hear the overture, if you come to join us in Cincinnati, you'll be struck. You'll hear it in a totally different way. Or the PIFA, which comes right before the soprano's first entrance. Whenever that comes along, I always think I'd love for this to be played at my funeral. This is that kind of music where, but it's very special by these players. And you'll hear that. And then the chorus is massive. We have an incredible chorus that somehow sings in just absolute union with one another. But because of the nature of our rehearsal process, I haven't gotten to hear as much of them. Mm-hmm. So tonight's first performance will be a little bit of a surprise to get to hear the experience for the first time.
Yeah, and you'll be surrounded by it on stage too. Is this one of the longer pieces that you have performed in your career?
Yeah, I've done a lot of Mahler symphonies, which are pretty long, but somehow Messiah is longer, and the sit is harder because you sing intermittently, and the pressures of the singing change from thing to thing. Whereas in most composers, you sort of stay in a certain vernacular, like with Mahler. You've got your solo and then you're done, kind of thing. But it's very special. I just, it's funny when I did it once when I was pregnant and I was like, can we please sit on the side of the stage? And this particular presenter really didn't want that. And they said, no, we don't want the sound of heels click-clacking. And I was like, oh, like those. So it's funny, all of the things off stage that people don't know about are some of the things I think about first, is those ins and outs.
What is the part that you are most excited to perform?
I think maybe my favorite moment is one of the first moments I had with the Messiah, which is an aria that always goes to the Mezzo, because, sometimes we exchange pieces. O thou that tellest good tidings to Zion, because it is uplifting, because it is rejoicing, I think that just always really gets me excited. It's very hard not to dance. And over the years, I'm like, you know what? It's okay. You can dance some. It's okay, And this orchestra, when you're with an orchestra as fine as the CSO, it's especially exciting and electric. So that's probably the one I'm looking forward to most. And I have a lot of memories of the first, but who may abide because of its challenge over the years. It's kind of nice to know a piece 20 years because you conquer certain things, and certain things are, have old habits, and they're, like an old friend, they come with baggage. But I always feel good when that's done because I notice my growth, that when I was a 19-year-old singing Messiah, that terrified me. And now it's like, you know what? I think I figured this out. I know what to do. It's not so bad. So, and then I have a duet with the soprano, which is really nice because there aren't that many moments we sing together, and that is one. And I love that, just having a space of interacting with a colleague.
On stage, especially you were talking about, dancing it a little bit into it and stuff like that, I feel like just that body language as well between the different singers and the orchestra is also, the audience is definitely excited to see that as well.
They love that, yeah.
Yeah, and for some of the, more joyful pieces, it's very in the holiday spirit now, I think,
totally. Yeah, it's so interesting to me because for one reason or another, people feel at home, when they're at the Messiah. And I always find that really interesting. When I go to a new town, I ask the taxi driver if they'd like tickets. And the two things they always say are, what will I wear? I won't fit in. And there's something I need to know. I'm not prepared. Will it be okay for me to come if I don't know anything? It's like, you don't need to know anything. The music will tell you the story. Sit back and enjoy. Messiah is one of those, I think, that just feels very welcoming. People have a sense of what they will, can expect, and they know it'll be sort of transcendent and cleansing and joyful, and they come. So I wish that could sort of spread into more repertoire. Serious symphonic repertoire has as much depth and joy and transcendence, but for whatever reason, when you see Tchaikovsky #1, you don't know what that's going to be. Well, with Messiah, we don't have to worry about that.
People, for the most part, are familiar with the story, at least, yes.
Yeah.
Are there any insights that you'd like to talk about that you take care to bring to your part when you perform?
Yeah, I think so much of preparation is doing all the work you can do so that you're available in the moment. And so what that means is you know your music, you're warmed up, you got a good night's rest, you're ready to really listen to that instrument or really check in with that conductor or really absorb the chorus as opposed to getting distracted by your own ego or your own insecurities or what you don't know. So performing is so naked and so vulnerable that it's sort of paramount that you do all you can do to ready your mind and your body so that you're available for the moment and you feel free and you feel happy. A lot of times, I think when we have to wait on stage, it can be a recipe for disaster because if you're a nervous person, your mind can start going in circles. And for me, it's a perfect antidote to just be in the moment with the music. That sounds so simple, but if you're really listening to the orchestra, if you're really listening to the chorus, it's the perfect medicine to sort of dispel all of those concerns. And then when your time comes, you're ready. So a lot of it is kind of mental practice and then being your calendar. Like for me, because I have like 30 different pieces every year, I'm sort of going backwards all the time. I say it's like Thanksgiving dinner. You have one oven and 13 dishes that need to go in it. Well, the Messiah, I know. So I kind of know how I need to prep for that before I get to Cincinnati. Whereas another piece that might be entirely new, maybe I'm working on it 6 months in advance. So a lot of prep is knowing what you need and then providing it.
Have you worked with or performed with any of the other singers or with the CSO and the May Festival before?
Yeah, I know a lot of these colleagues for a long time, which is so nice because Cristian Măcelaru and I were actually at Rice together 20-something years ago, just before he started the conductor path. And he's an extraordinary musician and a very dear human. So I know I'm going to be in such great hands whenever I see him, and I treasure those times. And Nick Pon, the tenor, and I have also been doing Messiah probably for about 15 years, and I've known him from a lot of other repertoire. Lauren Snoofer and I did an opera together about 12 years ago, and I've never gotten to do concert with her, but I admire her so much. And then we have this wonderful baritone who's filling in, Soren Peterson, who is lovely, and he jumped in at barely a day's notice to do our concerts this week.
Yeah, and that must be, incredible to just jump right into the Messiah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's really interesting because I'm sitting there, having done this piece a lot, watching someone, really embrace the moment and not letting his nerves get the best of him and really sharing the story. Sometimes it's these other elements that make it work, not the singing. Because if we think too much about what we're producing, we'll go crazy. But if we stay in the story, stay in the communication, stay in, connecting to the audience, and that's what Soren's doing beautifully. So it's nice to see.
How do you interpret Handel's version of the story within the Messiah, and what does the work itself mean to you?
I always think of this day of the year when this particular Native American tribe I know does a certain dance, and they invite everyone in the community, in the town, to come, those that are not in the tribe and they dance in 4 different directions in every quadrant of their area, and it's essentially a resetting of the year. It's a resetting of the earth. It's connecting to the earth, and to me, the Messiah kind of has that sort of impact. It sort of presses the reset button. It is a moment to absorb the year, to be grateful, and to look ahead into what your hopes are for the future. And I think that's a joy of repeating music, is it kind of gives you a snapshot of where you are in time, and it connects you to where you've come from and where you're going. And to me, that is sort of the essence of the Messiah. It's sort of a centering, very spiritual, transcendent work, that we share together. It's kind of like therapy on stage.
Yeah. I could imagine. What emotions does the work evoke for you?
All kinds of emotions. There is a lot of sorrow. And one of the moments I get to share is very sorrowful, and it's got a little bit of anger and bitterness in it. There is, immense gratitude and joy. I'm trying to think of an emotion that's not in the piece. A lot of awe, a lot of discovery, don't know if that's an emotion. A lot of it is sort of, I don't know, it's sort of like the evolution of a human life in one evening, kind of. So you go through the stages of grief, you go through the stages of gratitude, you go through the stages of spiritual awakening, you know. So that's actually a question for everybody. What emotion is not in the Messiah? I don't know.
There are so many emotions within. What do you hope that the audience takes away from this performance with the CSO?
I hope that they, you know, are allowed to feel a bit of space away from their lives, you know, just really relishing being alive, but not sort of concerned with anything else, and to just be in the room together and feel that we've brought them a sense of peace, a sense of belonging. I think that's what the hope is, you know, with any music, any musician, we'd say, what kind of service do we provide? Yeah, there's entertainment, of course. Like, we have things in common with Taylor Swift. We do. But we also hope to provide this space for spirituality, whatever your religious beliefs might be. Just in the human experience, we have that in common. What is that, to be human together? And how many spaces do we really sit with one another and share, right? Church, sports, Taylor Swift, and concerts. Concerts, we come together and we consider what it is to be alive, and we face our own mortality, you know. And maybe we've lost someone that year. Maybe we recently got married. Maybe we recently had a baby. Maybe we recently lost a baby. It sort of meets you wherever you are, and it finds you. So I hope that we provide that heart opening to whomever comes in the room.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in to Cincinnati Public Radio.
Absolutely.
And coming in to interview with us.
Very happy to. Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.